This conference will now be recorded.
Let me share my screen. Okay. So today we'll see the performance testing introductions. Okay. And as well as I'll tell you the technical words have we used in project and those terminologies I'll explain. Okay. So first the performance testing. So the performance testing the normally when we will use. So to check the speed, the response and the stability and the network bandwidth under a workload. To check the applications, we will do the performance testing. Correct. To check the speed means first let's talk about speed. Why we are test the applications to check the speed. Okay. For example, if it's big million day or IRCTC application, right, to book the tickets at the particular time, the certain period of time, the in applications higher number of users will access the applications. Correct. So at the time the application should not get crash. For example, that particular applications only it eligible for 100 users, you are putting more load 150 users, right, it will get crash definitely. So to check the speed, if it's fast only, we can use those applications, then the customer will lose the interest and they will jump into other applications, like even for booking something, it's keep on loading, you will get irritated, right? So to check the speed, so we will use the performance testing as well as scalability. Okay. And reliability. Okay. Scalable means, as I said, instead of 100 users, the next time, okay, for the next release or if they increase the business, another 50 users will add in, right? So from 100, you will jump into another 50 users, then 200 or 300. So your application should be scalable for all the users load. That is called scalability. Okay. Then coming to reliability, if you take it as banking applications, you will work, that banking will work for 24 bar 7, right? That app will work for 24 bar 7. So if it is working for longer period, how the reliability is working. So these are the stuffs we can check in the performance testing. So basically performance testing mean come under the category of non-functional testing. Performance testing means non-functional testing. It's not a functional testing. So once all the functional validations completed, then we'll do the performance testing. Once we'll check all the applications response time, the speed, how the network band based on network bandwidth, how the application is working, then it will move to production, then customer will access those applications. So this is the performance testing. So now you know why we need what's the performance testing, right? So there are some types in performance testing. Okay. Normal type means there are certain types. I'll tell you the different types. Okay. First is load test. So if you are into the project, they will call load test. Okay, have you done the load test? Have you executed the load test? Load test means to stimulate the maximum number of users under the workload. It's the load test. For example, you want to check the applications for 100 users, how the application is behaving. To you are putting some load to the applications and you are just checking the performance, that is called load testing. Okay. Then next is stress. You are giving some stress. Okay. For example, you are not sure how this particular applications, how many users it handled. Okay. So how you can do, for example, you're starting with 50 users means how the application is behaving, then you are increasing to 2x, you are doubling it. Okay. Then 100 users, then 200 users. So at one point your applications will get break, right? Break. So to check the break point of the applications, we will do stress testing. Clear? Load test means normal load. You know the load like 100 users, 200 users. You are putting the load and you check the applications. That is load test. But you are giving some stress to the applications and you are checking the performance, that is called stress testing. Clear? Then endurance test means you will run some prolonged period of time, for example 4 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours. You are running for longer hours for some users. You will check any memory leakage is coming, because when you are running users for the continuous period of time, how the application is behaving, is there any memory leakage is coming, or you want to check anything. So to check the memory leakage, it is called endurance test. So you got clear, right? Load test means you are putting on load and you are just checking the applications. Endurance means you are running for 4 hours or 5 hours, 6 hours, more than hours, and you are checking memory leakage. That is an endurance test. Stress test means you are increasing the user load and you are identifying the break point. That is stress test. And one more spike. Okay. Spike means gradually you are increasing the user, you are decreasing. Sometimes at one point 100 users will come, like booking tickets or something. At particular period of time, some users will get login. After some time, the users will get decreased, right? So the same way we are checking the application is called spike test. You are increasing the user and you are decreasing the user, and how the application is behaving, that is called spike test. Okay, so basically when we in non-functional testing there are different types. Okay, we can also do the security testing, browser compatibility testing, accessibility testing, site reliability testing. Everything it will come under the non-functional testing. Except functional testing, this performance testing, site reliability testing I'm just talking about means the data centers will be in other locations, right? If there are some earthquake happened, how the data centers will get lost, right? So that is site reliability testing. Security testing I'm talking about any malware happened, so how we can check those things, that is also non-functional testing. Browser compatibility testing means it's a user preference. I will use Chrome, I will use Edge. It's different users have a different perspectives, right? That is browser compatibility testing. Accessibility testing means some people, not some disabled people will access the applications, right? That is also a non-functional testing. So these are all non-functional testing. Currently we are looking in performance testing. So this is how the performance testing will work, and these are the certain types. Okay, so when you have to do the performance testing after functional testing is completed. Okay, and once it's completed then it will move to production stage. Okay, now you tell you the technical things. Okay, words, the terminologies, anything you can call the common terminologies. Okay, first I will talk about response time. Why I'm starting from response time, I'll tell you. So the response time means first you know how the applications work, right? You have some basics on request and response. Yesterday I have shown you what's the server, what's the client, how it sends to request, and how we are receiving the request from the server, right? So I'll show you the diagram, then you will understand better instead of theoretically. Okay, so you know the client, you know the server, you know the request, and you know the response, right? So you was launch some URL, okay? You are launch some URL, okay? Even Google, anything you are launching some URL. What will happen? The client will send the request to the server. Server process the request. It will validate. Here, what happened? The validation will happen. Okay, whatever URL is coming, it's proper, so it will validate. Based on that, it will throw the response to the client. Then you can in UI you will see the response, correct? So the response time means the time taken to process the request, okay? Here it will take some time, right? In server, after hitting some URL to the server, what happened here? Some time will take, right, to process it. So here time taken to process the request plus the response which is transferred from the server to client in the form of bytes. So basically how the response will send backend in network, it will send in bytes format. It will send in packets, right? So the time taken to process the request plus the response which is transferred from the server to client is called response time. Response time is clear, right? So basically in a performance testing we used to check the response time. How? So you need to understand the basics of response time, what's the response time is, okay? And in response you will send it form of packet. So the basically the time taken here, it will send some set of response, right? If you launch the URL, definitely it will go 2 3 requests, right? In response you will get some set of response. So the time taken to send the first byte to reach the client plus processing time, this called response time. Clear? Any doubt? Even the request and response, in the sense I'll talk like this one. Maybe I know you know the basics, I think. Wait, I'll show you one thing, then you will understand it. See, for example, I'm searching Google, okay? I'm just opening a developer tool. I'll tell you later when you're going for recording, then you will understand it, how you can record everything, okay? If I'm just going to search something google.com, what happened? To launch google.com itself, I am getting these bunch of requests, correct? So many requests is going to the server, and you are getting some response from the server. So it is sending some bunch of requests, you are receiving some response. So to process, okay, time taken to process the request from the server plus response which is transferred from the server to client, that is the response time. Clear? Response time is clear, right? Response time is very very important. And next, okay, hits per second. Hits per second means the number of requests going to the server. Number of requests, these requests, right? One hits happening, these are the hits happening to the server, right? This is one hit. So the number of requests going to the server per second is hits per second. Clear? Response time is different, hits per second is different. Then I'll talk about throughput. They will use the word like throughput. Throughput means request processed per second, okay? Just understand the difference. Hits means number of hit request to the server going, right? That is the hits per second. Throughput mean how many requests processed, the server. That is called request per server. It's little different, but you should know these basics. Then only when you are working on the report, when you are started working on script creations and everything, these terminologies you should know, even for explaining with the client. So the client will ask why you are going to do the performance testing, what are the things you will work on in a performance testing, right? So at the time you should know these the technical words, and you have to explain, okay, these are the steps I will check. So you should know these terminologies, okay? Then transactions per second. Previously we saw hits per second throughput. Now we are going to see transactions per second. Maybe if you want, you can also note it down. Okay. Transactions per second means number of transactions processed. So I'm just talking about this is the request. See, this one request, this is one request, this is one request. So number of request. Transaction means you are launching something, right? You will get some set of requests, these many requests. When you are clicking search, you will get another set of requests. So that is other transactions. So these are called transactions per second. Clear the steps. For example, you are launch something, you are clicking something. So everything will be transactions. So that per second. Clear? Any doubts? So far clear, right? Hello, are you clear? Am I audible first? Yeah, okay, fine. Okay,
Yes,
stop
it's
me if you have
clear.
any questions, okay? Yeah. Then iterations per second. Iteration means, for example, in you are doing some transactions, right? For example, I said launch, then you are clicking something, this is one transactions, then you are clicking other transactions. So how many steps I did launch, I clicked one lucky button, then again I clicked one image. There are three buttons, three transactions I did. So this is called iterations. Clear? So other users will do same set of things, right? So that is second iterations. So you will iterate many times. Why you need iteration means, during that time you will do a number of users, each users will do different set of activities. So one users will have one flow, then second time it will start same set of flow, right? So that is called iteration. Iteration means the transactions, right? Launch, login, logout you are doing. Same thing I completed. Again I'm going to do launch, login, logout for second time. So that is called iterations. Okay. Iteration is different, transaction is different, everything is different. Okay. Just stop me if you have any doubts. Okay. So transaction you are clear. What's an iterations you are clear. What's request you know. What's a response you know. What's hits you know, right? Hits per second I'm talking about. Okay. Then important thing, think time. Think time means I'm going to click this one, right? Before clicking this button, either any button, okay, any images or something, I'll take some seconds, right? 1 second or 2 seconds. That is called think time. Between the transactions, user waiting time is nothing but think time. So I click this. Before clicking this human, this image, right, I'll take 1 seconds or 2 seconds gap, right? So that is called think time. I'll wait for some second to do the second set of activity, I mean second transactions. That is called think time. Okay, you're thinking something, you are waiting, right? So just think about that. Okay, think time. Okay. Pacing means this one, pacing. Okay. Pacing means just difference between think time and pacing. I'll tell you. Think time means I click something here. I'm just waiting for some seconds to click this button. That is called think time. Pacing means between the iterations you are waiting, right? That is called pacing. Between the iteration means you have only 3 steps. For example, I will launch Google, okay, Google. This is my first step, okay. Then my second step, again, I'll do google.com. I'll launch 2 things. Google.com. Then I will click some lucky button. 3 steps, okay. So between these steps, waiting time is think time. So after completing the third step, I will wait some time to start again. Start again means again I'll do Google, then google.com, then I'll click image. That time is called pacing. Clear? Between iterations I'm waiting. The same step. Second step, I'm going to do the same flow. I'm waiting for some time. That is pacing. Clear? Think time, pacing is clear. It's very important. Think time means between the transaction. I click Google. I'm waiting for some time to click this image. First I click this Google. I'm waiting for some time to click something else. That is think time. I'm going the same step again. I want to do same step for second time means that is pacing. Between iteration waiting time is pacing. Clear? Any doubt? Okay. Then network latency. Network latency means normal thing. So don't get confused with think time, the network latency. Okay. So you know, right, the network the latency. So the time taken to transfer, okay, for example, you are sending some request to the server, you are waiting for some time to get the response from the server. That is called network latency. Clear? Response time means, don't confuse with the response time and network latency. Response time means time taken to process the request from the server plus response which is transferred from the server to client. I'm just not talking about client now. Process plus response to the client, that is response time. Network latency means you request sends to the client and you're waiting to receive the response from the server. That is called network latency. It will vary based on your network bandwidth. It will vary. That is called network latency. Clear? Network latency is clear. Don't get confused with response time and network latency. Okay. And next step is test script. Test script means you will do launch, login, logout. So you will create one script that we call it as test script. Okay. That launch, login, logout, that particular step is called use case or scenario steps or traversal steps. Clear? That particular steps you are going to create a script is test script. That steps, right, they call it as traversal flow. Clear? Or test scenario. Any confusion these technical words? Okay. Then load generator means basically it's a machine. Okay. Machine in the sense, normally you are using one computer, right? What you will do, one second. So your computer is one machine, right? So you used to inject a load to do the performance testing. The same way you are going to use some machine, right, in a project. In when you are working on real project, you will not, as I said, you will not use your local machine. They will use some machines to run the script, right? So for example, if it's a cloud machine, you want to run the test with a Singapore location latency means what you will do. You need some IP address which is hosted in Singapore location, right? So that the load generator, that is the load generator, is basically a machine which is used to inject the load to do the performance testing. That is the load generator. Clear? Whatever I mentioned, the words have any confusions? So far clear. Response time, hits per second, have any doubts? Throughput, network latency, test scripts, what is mean by traversal steps or user scenario, then load generator. Any doubts here? Transactions, what's an iterations? Any doubts? And one more thing, I'm just talking about virtual users. Virtual users. Virtual user means real, not real users. For example, I'm one users. You want to do the performance testing with 50 user means you will not call all the 50 users to sit in front of system to do the performance test, right? So you need some virtual users instead of real users. So you can put some users in a tool, not manually or something, right? In a tool you will put a users, it will do the same activities like how the human is doing. That is the virtual users or VU, they call it as VU. Sometimes it will make 100 VU means 100 users. So these are the words, basic things you should know. Okay, so any doubts? Any doubts? Okay, then I'll tell you these things. Okay, these things in the sense you are launching something, right? As I said this is the request. If you see Pakistan Independence Day, this is one request. Celebrating root, this is another request, this is another request, this is another request. So these are the requests. If you see in right side, you can see this header. So this particular request, there are some certain headers. I'll go from below. So you can see some certain headers. This is the request header, correct? So you can see also the response. As the response is very big, you can't see manually. Okay, you can't see manually, but the tool in tool you can see it. Okay, but these are the manual things you should know. Manual things means this is the request. What are these the request headers? Request headers you can see here. This is the request headers, and what's the response you are getting. So for those response, what's the response header? Clear? So this is header. So this is headers, and this is the response. For header you can see request as well as response. Request as well as response. Clear? So you should know these basics. The status code I'll cover in next session. Okay, how it work, how we can install the tool, how we can see the status codes and everything. So far in terminologies you have any doubts, please let me know, because I'll start using the technical words, I mean the performance words, when we started the scripting. But you should know these basic terminologies when you started working on project, even for interview purpose and everything. So any doubts? Okay, then fine. So we'll start on Monday with practical thing with theoretical thing. Okay, because still the life cycle is also the theoretical thing. If you're continuously going to theoretical means you will get confused. We will install a JMeter plus parallelly we'll see some theoretical things. Then only you can catch everything. If you're going completely into practical, completely into theoretical, that will be little confused for you. Okay. Sure, I'll tell you the terminologies. So these are the things we covered. Now, still I will use more things. I don't want to tell all the things in a single call. You will get confused. So just go from the basics, then you will catch everything. When you go with a test element, the element name will change. You have to understand, right? So we'll see from practical as well as some terminologies and some theoretical stuffs. So any doubts in performance testing first, then we'll see the life cycle and start installing and we'll go for JMeter. Okay, then we'll catch Monday at the same time. Let me know if you have any queries. You can just ping me in WhatsApp. You can tag me or you can simply post your queries in the same group chat. Okay, then fine. Thank you all. Happy weekend.
Thank you.